Also, I did see this. Sorry. It was this one. Where are you sitting in it's a 16-hour flight. If it's a 16-hour flight, I'm not sitting here. I'm never sitting in the middle. I will begrudgingly sit in the middle if I am on a short flight, but as someone who sometimes pees a lot, I always go aisle seat. I hate window seats as well. I don't really like window seats. And middle, I will begrudgingly accept, but I am always definitely getting an aisle seat. So, yeah. 14 and I'll trade with you, but this is also a window seat. I wouldn't want that. I would have to swap with Panko. I don't know where I'd pick. Probably 2 or 3. Nah, 8. Well, basically just any aisle seat. I would be fine. 12 seems very easy to pick because you are literally just isolated. There is no one immediately next to you. You have Panko and I behind you, I guess, and 12. That's the easiest one. I mean, if you want to just isolate, if you're, socially distancing. You need to sit on the wing. Like, where the wing is of the plane? That's crazy. What's wrong with 9? Nothing. There's nothing wrong with any seat, for the record. There's nothing wrong with any seat at all. Sit anywhere. I would just prefer an aisle seat, so I would be any of these. Or these. You want to be the first to know if the engines are blowing up, so wing seat is for that guy. To be honest, I don't think I would. I think if I saw the engine, like one of the engines break on a plane, even though I do know that planes can fly whilst losing an engine, I would still panic, I think, if I saw a plane break like that. I would still definitely panic. That said, every time I fly, I do kind of have to do like I don't know if this is me being a worrywart considering the sheer amount of flights that I have taken in my life, which is quite a lot, but like realistically, when it comes to flying, it does feel like you just kind of have to accept if anything goes wrong. It is completely out of my hands and I do not get a say in whether I live or die. There is realistically very little that I can do in this thing, so you just kind of have to put a lot of hope into the pilots to make sure nothing bad happens, I guess. So, yeah, it's one of those weird things where you just have to, like, hope. I'm not a super nervous flyer. I do get a little bit, I think, anxious on the landing. That also applies to riding a bus. Yes, but buses aren't 30,000 feet in the air and also going like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles an hour. A bus is on the ground, and whilst yes, there are traffic accidents, I think I'm less likely to die a horrific death in a bus on the way to work or whatever than I am to, having to deal with anything else. You're more likely to have an accident riding in a car than flying a plane. I know, but that's because the sheer amount of cars on the road versus the sheer amount of flights in the air. I know that statistically, you're more likely to get killed by a shark than die in a car crash or whatever it is. I'm well aware of all the statistics. I know that statistically, plane flying is safer. It's not the statistics. It's the fact that I have zero control over what happens because I'm not the pilot. I don't get to say. I don't get to do anything if a plane starts going down. I don't get to choose whether we live or die. I'm just a passenger. If I'm driving a car, I at least have control over the actions of the car, just like in a bus. I know, but a bus isn't going thousands of kilometers an hour. But no, I've been reading up about, every now and then I'll be like, I'll read up about plane accidents because, I don't know, I just want to panic. And it's actually quite fascinating, just like the process of how it can happen. You'll never fly because you have no control over the actions. I mean, yeah, it might seem irrational, but yeah, like you don't get to choose. Like, you have no say over whether you live or die when you get in a plane. You're completely in the hands of the pilot. On a bus, you still have some control of a few things. Like, you can easily get off a bus. Getting off a plane does not happen. There are plenty of bus stops. There's only one plane stop, and that's when the plane lands. Also, bus crashes are less dangerous than a plane crash. But we're engaging in hypotheticals that I think is dealing with statistics and blah blah blah, which is not what I'm talking about. Also, a bus is already on the ground. A bus is on the ground. I can just get off the bus. You can't exactly just be like, I'm getting off the plane, bye. Because if you do that, you have to break open the airlock somehow, which is apparently very heavy. Anyway, I've reading up about like plane crashes, and I think I've mentioned this one before on stream, but it's a flight from Brazil to, I think, Paris. And basically there were 3 pilots on the plane. The experienced pilot, and then a not as experienced co-pilot. Well, there was a experienced pilot and co-pilot, and then there was an inexperienced junior co-pilot who basically after takeoff, the experienced pilot was like, I'm going to bed, y'all, good night. And went to have like a rest and left the flying to the co-pilot and the inexperienced co-pilot. Anyway, so because of the air conditions outside, the measurements reader froze over. I think it's Air France 47. Is it 447? Yeah, the tools that is used to measure the various different things about the instruments, yes, the measuring instruments for the plane basically froze over. Because of that, the inexperienced co-pilot was like, oh, the stuff is saying that we're going down, I'll have to pivot. Basically the readings were saying that they're going down, but they were actually flying straight. And so the inexperienced pilot was seeing that and going, huh, that's weird, and then starts adjusting because of that. And basically, through a series of very unfortunate errors between the 2 co-pilots, the inexperienced co-pilot adjusting and the other co-pilot trying to understand what was happening, and then eventually the experienced pilot comes in and tries to take over, but the inexperienced, and the actual experienced captain or pilot takes over at one point and he fixes it. He actually fixes the problem or something. And then the co-pilot is just panicking and still has control over the plane, even though because you know when it's like they pass control of the plane, right? That's one of the things that they can do, is that because they both have they all have the steering wheel, right? In their seats. And basically they passed it over to the experienced pilot, but then somehow the panicking pilot still has control and is panicking. And so he is still trying to pull up. And basically they just pull the plane up into an almost vertical, like basically pointing straight up, and then it stalls and then they just collapse. It just stalls and then they crashes into the ocean and they all died. It's just terrifying. Just absolutely terrifying. They did recover the black box. So if you want to hear the craziest or most awful, horrifying audio of them panicking in French with captions, you can. Why would you want to hear that? I don't know. Morbid curiosity, I guess. I've watched a little bit of it. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I'm coming!